Hey everybody, it's Fernando from the Rollback Podcast, and I am going to be reviewing the hot show that's out right now, Stranger Things Season 4. Now, Eddie knows this. I'm pretty sure uh, Kevin knows this as well. That I wouldn't say a huge Stranger Things fan, but I am an avid fan of the show. And that's because when the first season came out, I wasn't too big on it. I was like, it's whatever. I started watching like the first 5 minutes, and then I was like, this is boring. I switched on to something else. But then, when I gave it another shot, I was like, holy shit. This is a really good fucking show. I rewatched season 1 a ton of times, along with season 2 and season 3. Season 4, man, this is a different beast, because not only do we get our characters back after being gone since 2019, pre-pandemic. They're more than likely supposed to come back 2020, but due to COVID, shooting got cut short, and they had to do what they had to do. So it sucks. It really does. But, we got what we got. Now, I'm pretty sure I, like many of you, were curious how this season was going to play out, mostly because, we all heard the Duffer Brothers say at the beginning that they were thinking it was going to be about 4 to 5 seasons long. And we're already on the 4th, so we're like, oh shit, is this going to be the final season? And apparently not. I have no idea how this season's going to end. I'm not even going to make predictions on this podcast. I'm just going to talk about volume 1 specifically, and then go from there. Now, what did I think about volume 1, first and foremost? Volume 1, I thought, was really good. Very different feel as opposed to all of them, which I will say, each season has had its own feel, which is really good. You don't want every season to feel the same, because it gives some level of change, that it's evolving, and then, you don't want it to get stale. First season had a very mystery feel. This season had a very horror movie feel, and I think they deliberately did this with the hiring of Robert Englund. I really don't want to spoil anything so far. So, yes, this season very much has a horror movie feel, which I am not mad at. I love slasher horror movies, and I think they're awesome. They are some of my favorite things. We get to see our beloved cast come back. We get to see how their lives have changed. And I want to say, so in theory, in the show ended in July of previous year, and it's picking up back on spring break. So August, September, October, November, December, January, February, March. So it's been about 8 months in the time gap in the show. Now, do we think it's been 8 months? A logical person would say absolutely not. But it's been 8 months. We pick up where our characters are left off. Our remaining Hawkins characters are in high school, while we have Will, Jonathan, and Elle in California in high school as well. They're both going through their very own struggles. Dustin and Mike are still very much nerdy, still very much dealing with being a nerd. And we have Lucas, who is an up-and-coming basketball player. We have Elle, Will, and Jonathan, who are pretty much kind of loners at their new school. And they are being thrusted into this new baddie that shows up, who starts a muck in Hawkins. Now, that's just a very simple synopsis. Now, this is probably going to be the end of my spoiler-free stuff. If I had to give this season a rating, I would give it definitely a 4.5 out of 5. That was really good. Very well paced. Lots of meat in these episodes because each episode is pretty much over an hour. So if you're wondering if you're going to get enough of these, you are. They definitely hit us with a lot of stuff in this season. So yes, very good. Please check it out. Now, let me start talking about some spoilers. Episode 1 takes us back all the way to 1979, where we see a younger Martin Brenner getting ready for work. And he, this is basically the beginning of the, I don't even know if they say the name of the program, but the number program, I guess. We get to see numbers, and it looks like it's more than 11. It's up to, I want to say, at least 13. We get to see a young 11 along with the many other numbers. And they're all trying to show their powers. And at one point, we hear commotion. People end up dying. Everyone ends up dying. Brenner walks out of the room only to find the person that he was with, the kid that he was with, dead as well. And then he gets into the rainbow room and he sees a young 11 there with blood coming out of her eyes. And yeah, very interesting to say the least. Another interesting aspect is the fact that we get to see Brenner again. He hadn't been mentioned until not the episode, but until season 2, where we were made to believe that he is still in fact alive. And this is the only time that we were pretty much told, like, oh, it's a pretty good possibility he is alive. Now, after that, we go back to Elle writing a letter to Mike. Everything that's going on in her life. She's still very much infatuated with Mike. He's still very much infatuated with her. We see Elle where she is very much bullied but in her new school because of how she is, how she looks, things like that. We get to see Mike and Dustin in their new habitat as well. And, it pretty much goes, not to show, but I think we all kind of figured this is what was going to happen. And it's nothing bad. I think we all kind of figured that they would, that this is how it would become. Mike and Dustin becoming quintessential nerds while Lucas becomes athlete. But, I mean, it always kind of felt like it was going to be that way. Ever since season 2, ever since season 3, you can always tell that Lucas was more into, like, being popular. And then Mike and Dustin were pretty much nerds. Even though in season 3, Mike wasn't as big of a nerd. But in the end, yeah, nerds. We also get to see that Hopper is in fact alive, which we already knew because of the trailers. Yes, Hopper is very much alive. He sends her a doll from Russia with a secret code written inside with a phone number. And next thing you know, we are led back to Russia, where we get to see Hopper. We get to see that he is alive in the later episodes. We see Max, who has probably had the most trouble adjusting because she knows what happens to her brother, what happened to her brother, but no one knows. No one knows that he died a hero. No one knows that he died saving her and her friends, Elle specifically. Like, no one knows this. He died a hero, and she's the only one that knows, unfortunately, and she wants everyone to know, but that won't happen because that's not the case, unfortunately. Um, we're also introduced to some other characters, like new founding character, Joseph Quinn as Eddie Munson, the leader of the Hellfire Club, the Dungeons and Dragons group that Mike and Dustin are a part of. We also get to see Argyle, who is friends with Jonathan in California, played by Eduardo Franco, who you may have seen in other projects like American Vandal, The Package on Netflix. And yeah, the biggest thing that happens in this first episode is the introduction of a new baddie. We watch one of the cheerleaders, Chrissy Cunningham, as she goes to Eddie Munson's house, our residential D&D nerd, but he's also a drug dealer on the side, and she's buying Special K from him, ketamine, and it's very interesting as to why she's buying it. We don't really know as to why she's buying it. I think it's for her to sleep, but I'm not entirely sure. And then in Eddie's not apartment, in his trailer park, she is what can only be described as a Nightmare on Elm Street type killing. She's lifted up, levitated, held against the ceiling. Her eyeballs get sucked out of her head. Her limbs start contorting in ways that they're not supposed to be contorting. And yeah, we very much watch her die. And Eddie is freaking out when this is happening. So, very nuts. Way to introduce the new baddie in this new season. Now, in episode 2, that's where things really start to go awry, because now we're dealing with the aftermath of Chrissy Cunningham, a relative cheerleader, being absolutely, positively murdered by something we have no idea is there. We get to see Hopper, finally. He's revealed in Kamchatka. Anyone who's played Risk knows where Kamchatka is. And Joyce and Murray are on the case to try to get him back, where she speaks to Enzo, and she has been told to give him $40,000 so that he can get Hopper out of there. Now, that is Murray and Joyce's spiel, not spiel, but their campaign, if you will. We see that Max was also a witness to what happened. Not what happened, but the aftermath of what happened to Chrissy and how she went to go see Eddie. And she goes and tells Dustin what she saw. And then we also get to see Steve and Robin, our lovely sarcastic duo, where they find traumatized, or they try to locate traumatized Eddie to explain that you're kind of being thrust into this world called the Upside Down. Now, Eddie and Dustin identify the entity that killed Chrissy while using another trope from Dungeons and Dragons. They identify him as Vecna. Nancy and her fellow student reporter Fred go to investigate Chrissy's death, where Fred disappears. He's being tormented by something that is tormenting him about a thing that happened in his past. And, you know, it's giving off these very Nightmare on Elm Street vibes. That's needless to say, especially with Robert Englund making a guest appearance in this show. And Eddie, who is being tormented by this demon, is subsequently murdered. Now, these deaths caused by Vecna are very, very brutal. compared to last season. Even last season had some pretty brutal deaths, but yeah, the deaths have gotten very brutal in this show. Now, episode 3 has to deal with Sam Owens, our resident U.S. Army scientist, being pretty much questioned as to where 11 is because the Army is blaming all these deaths on 11. They think that she is responsible. Owens knows better and says that she is not. And which leads to 11 being contacted by Owens about getting her powers back to help save Hawkins. Now, while this is going on, Joyce and Murray fly to Alaska, where they're going to meet Enzo's contact to get Hopper back. Hopper is too busy trying to get his escape plan to work. We have Jason, the basketball team captain, who believes that Eddie killed his girlfriend, so he's kind of leading a witch hunt against him, trying to kill him. We see that Max is starting to realize that Chrissy and Fred had things that are similar to her, where they went to the counselor to go talk to the counselor about the things that are happening in their lives, and when they find out that they had all had PTSD-like symptoms about what had happened to them, and so it leads to her thinking of a pattern that brings up Vecna, who calls Max's name, and then a vision of a grandfather clock appears. With this vision of a grandfather clock, we are led to believe that that is some sort of sign. Now, we are thrust back to Joyce and Murray, who deliver the payment to Yuri, who he ends up turning on them so that he can make more money, because you get more money by turning in traders. We also get to see more of Jonathan, Mike, and Will trying to sneak away from their Owens protectors, because at this point the government's kind of split between Owens group and the government, who think L is responsible for everything. So they're being protected right now by Owens guards. When a what are they called? A cleanup crew gets sent to Will's house to take him out. And thus, they are led on to an adventure to try and find L. These episodes have a lot of meat to them. And I don't know about you, but I don't think you all want an episode for episode breakdown. But yeah, I'm going to leave it at that. Now, what did I like about this season? I like that they thrusted a lot of meat into these episodes, basically saying like they didn't leave anything out that could have been very interesting or anything like that. I want to say it is because of the pandemic, and they know that fans were already upset that this season had got pushed back so far, so they really try to do as much as they could to put everything in these episodes, and that's because this isn't even the last season yet. I like the character progression. I like the introduction of new characters, especially Eddie. I feel like this season, even though it's still ongoing, we still have July 1st to get Volume 2. This season is definitely going to change a lot for the last 5th season. And I don't know about you all, but I, for one, am fucking pumped for July 1st. I really hope this season ends off with a bang, and it really just ends off on a good note, and we get to see more on this last 5th and final season. I want to see if they are going to have a connection of Vecna and the Mind Flayer, because there hasn't been any indication that they are connected. It's almost as if they are two separate entities. We get the reveal that Vecna is actually the first subject of Dr. Brenner. So, like a little thing of that coming back to bite him and 11 in the ass, because 11's the one that sent him to the Upside Down when she was about 7 or 8. But yeah, This season's only getting more interesting. I've seen season 4 about 2 times already. And we will see what Volume 2 does. A little less than a month for Volume 2 to come out. I can't wait. But yeah, that is it for today's review, ladies and gentlemen. This is Fernando. This was your rollback review of Stranger Things Season 4, Volume 1. Let's cut it.